Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and today we've got a loaded episode because the NBA draft, well, the first round is over, and the Hawks made a bold selection. We're going to break down Atlanta's major draft day trade, them actually trading down and picking their guy, and then we're going to talk about the selection of Asa Newell, some positives and negatives with that, and where he really fits going into next season, and how general manager Onzi Soleil continues to just make waves in his first few weeks on the job, really. So from super bold trades to super smart drafting, the Hawks are showing direction, clarity, and confidence. Something fans have absolutely been waiting for quite a while. So without further ado, let's dive into it. And talk about this trade that went down yesterday, just right as Atlanta was supposed to make their initial selection at pick 13. So the Hawks obviously entered the night holding the 13th overall pick. They no longer had the 22nd overall pick because it was traded to Brooklyn as a part of the three-team trade that sent Kristaps Porzingis to Atlanta. But instead of using that 13th overall pick, they very quickly struck a deal with the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, it had been rumored that the Hawks and Pelicans would kind of work on a draft night trade for quite some time now. It wasn't this specifically, and I'll get to the details of that in a minute. I mean, some framework was floated around, Atlanta maybe getting Herb Jones, and then obviously the Pelicans would be moving up, Atlanta would be moving back, just something like that. But actually, they struck that deal with the New Orleans Pelicans, and it was 13th overall, got sent to New Orleans in exchange for the 23rd overall pick and an unprotected 2026 first rounder. An unprotected 2026 first rounder from the New Orleans Pelicans. Just an unreal asset that Onzi Soleil was able to claim in this trade. So here's the key detail of that. Atlanta is going to receive the more favorable of either the Pelicans or the Milwaukee Bucks pick in that draft. So that is a critical component, and let me explain why. So next year's draft class is already being touted as, significantly deeper and more talented than the 2025 draft class. Something, a draft class that was obviously very talented. And as we saw yesterday, I mean, a lot of these guys are probably going to be elite rotation players in the NBA with a few superstars. It's a great draft, and the 2026 draft is only going to be better as of right now. I mean, obviously we can't predict that until like 20 years down the line. However, it appears that way. So by dropping back 10 spots this year and still being able to get their guy, Atlanta secured what could very well end up being a top 10 pick in 2026. I mean, come on. I mean, especially if things go south for either New Orleans or Milwaukee, and it's really expected to go pretty badly for both of them. So Atlanta's in a prime position thanks to our new GM. I mean, with Zion Williamson's health history and a weird backcourt of now Jordan Poole and DeJounte Murray, the Pelicans could be really bad next year. And I mean, Milwaukee's got that aging core, and maybe Giannis Antetokounmpo on his way out, and obviously Dame Lillard is likely going to miss all of next season. It's entirely possible that either of those end up at number one, in which the Atlanta Hawks would have a chance to select AJ DeBanza next year, or a guy like Cam Boozer. So just incredible situation for the Hawks, and it's all thanks to their awesome GM that has been doing a great job in his first few days. And we're going to talk about that a little more later and give Onzi really his flowers. But, I mean, the way the draft board was shaping up last night, Atlanta did feel very comfortable moving back. They had identified a few targets that, were really at the top of their board and they were really interested in. And the way the draft board was lining up, I mean, those guys were still available and they were projected to still be available, considering what the teams ahead of us needed, obviously before 23. So they felt comfortable moving back. Several of their key targets were still available at 23. So the trade was less about sacrificing talent and more about really maximizing value. I mean, if you identify a guy and he's not going to be selected later, you take him. I mean, you take the trade. I mean, and Onzi Soleil really nailed that balance, and it's good to see. I mean, add this deal to the Porzingis acquisition just, 2 days earlier. Well, actually a day earlier than the draft, and it becoming clear that the Hawks front office is operating with a real vision. and the boldness to execute it. Great to see. Definitely very encouraging for Hawks fans all around the world. So now, obviously, with the 23rd overall pick, the New Orleans Pelicans, well, actually, the Atlanta Hawks, had selected UGA forward Asa Newell, the 6'11 forward. Newell actually becomes the first Bulldog to be drafted in the first round since Anthony Edwards in 2020. We all know how that worked out. Anthony Edwards became one of the best players in the NBA. And Newell brings an exciting mix of upside and proven production at a high level, something that obviously Atlanta could seriously benefit from. Now, a former five-star recruit, Newell averaged 15.5 points, 7 rebounds per game for Georgia. He played for the Georgia Bulldogs. He shot over 54% from the floor. Definitely some good splits. He recorded 7 double-doubles and dropped a career-high 26 points during the season. I mean, in Georgia's NCAA tournament appearance against Gonzaga, where they actually lost, Newell did put up 20 points, 8 rebounds, and shot 60%. So he had a good performance that really helped his draft stock. But clearly not too much because he was still there at 23. This was absolutely a value add for the Hawks. It's something that you couldn't really pass up on. I mean, obviously, the front office had identified him as their guy. But even then, just regardless, all things considered, getting a guy that's supposed to be a lottery pick at 23 is just magical. I mean, last time the Hawks got a draft steal like that was Jalen Johnson. So hopefully this kind of has a similar feel to it, and it really does. I mean, beyond the stats, Newell was instrumental in helping Georgia reach their first NCAA tournament appearance since 2015, and achieve their first 20-win season in a decade. He's still just scratching the surface of his potential. Standing at 6'11 with fluid mobility, I mean, Newell projects as a two-way forward who can guard multiple positions, finish in traffic, and hit the occasional three. Now, that jumper isn't incredible. He shot pretty poorly from deep last season at Georgia, but the most important thing was his willingness to take it. And he shot a good volume of threes. The percentages weren't that great, but it's something you bank on, just the willingness, like I said, and get him in the lab with Kyle Korver and the rest of this Atlanta Hawks training staff, and he should be fine and should be able to contribute from deep pretty soon. I mean, he's already being compared to a guy Hawks fans are going to know, very, very much so, John Collins. He's been compared to the former Hawk, but many scouts believe Newell has a higher ceiling, and so do I. He's kind of like, he has a similar rim running ability to John Collins, but he's definitely more of a willing shooter coming out of the draft, and he's definitely quicker in transition and running the floor. So, and he's also better with the ball in his hands. So really, he's kind of just like an upgraded John Collins in pretty much every asset. So, and Collins at 19 was still great value. So can you imagine what down the line Asa Newell at 23 value will look like? I mean, come on, guys. This is a great pick for where we were at. I would have understood if Hawks fans were a little upset if we took him at 13, but that's exactly why they traded back, guys. So, I mean, thanks to, better defensive instincts and quicker feet and smoother shooting mechanics, Newell's going to pan out in the NBA, and the Hawks are going to be there to watch it all unfold while he's in their front court. And so speaking of the front court, we're going to talk about how in the past couple of days, Atlanta has completely revived theirs. Not that there was too much of an issue in the front court, previously, but depth certainly was an issue, and boy, have they fixed that. I mean, with the addition of Kristaps Porzingis just a couple days ago, and now Asa Newell, the Hawks have completely retooled that front court depth. And it might be the most significant outcome of this offseason so far. Actually, it totally is. That offseason really just started. And probably by the end of this offseason, we're still going to be looking at this 24-hour period that really changed the vibes in Atlanta moving forward. Last season when Jalen Johnson went down with injury, Atlanta's lack of size and depth were painfully exposed, and it led to obviously the end of their season where they got bounced in the play-in after having 2 chances at the playoffs. This front office clearly took note, and now Atlanta has several legitimate 6'11 or taller options who can stretch the floor, protect the rim, and run the floor in transition. Porzingis at 7'2", Newell at 6'11", both of them bring super different skill sets, but both of them have great size. Newell can also play the 5, so he's kind of like he's a stretch big, is kind of struggling as a shooter, but that is something I'm not worried about at the next level. I think they can play well off of each other as Atlanta's bench front court. Obviously, we don't know necessarily if Porzingis is going to come off the bench for a Okongwu, but it is implied. I definitely don't think the Hawks would want to move Okongwu back to the bench, but I mean, a starting 4 and 5 of Jalen Johnson and Onyeka Okongwu, and then off the bench, Asa Newell and Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, you can't beat that. That is awesome. The Hawks are finally surrounding Trae Young with all the length and these big guys down low. Really, Trae is going into, probably the first real season of his prime, and they're finally putting together the best team that he's ever had. And I couldn't be more excited for the vision to really come into light. This is awesome. This is a great time for Hawks fans. So obviously whether these guys are coming off the bench or placed in the starting lineup, however the rotation may come to light, the Hawks suddenly have options, and it's great. Make no mistake, this wasn't accidental. It's clear that the Hawks never want to be caught thin in the front court again. And they won't. So now we're going to give Anzi Saleh his flowers for really how he's managed these past couple of days. He's only been on the job for a couple months, maybe. Obviously he was with the team, but he just took over that GM role after Landry Fields was let go of his duties. He's already making a huge impression. I mean, his assertiveness in reshaping the roster has been undeniable, while he's still, preserving future flexibility and really valuing the team's future as a whole. It's really energized the fan base. And first he pulled off the incredible deal a couple days ago, acquiring Kristaps Porzingis from Boston without giving up any core pieces. All Atlanta gave up was Terrence Mann, Georges Niang, and the 22nd overall pick, and then brought in an NBA champ and an all-star big who's averaged 20 points per game over the last 2 seasons, shooting the 3 ball extremely well and being a core piece to a championship team. They brought him in, and then on draft night, he turned pick 13 into Asa Newell and potentially a very high 2026 first round player. We're going to have to see that come to light. We're going to have to see, all of it really unfold. But with the way the Hawks are looking right now, guys, the future couldn't be more bright. This is, it's a new direction. It's a new day in Atlanta. It's rare to see a new GM come in and immediately make such a sharp, calculated move, not only right out of the gate. That's rare. And we should appreciate that. Saleh has brought vision and a sense of urgency a little bit to the organization, and most importantly, he's not afraid to act boldly. It's just, in just a matter of days, he's changed the tone of the franchise from a little bit of uncertainty to real purpose, and Hawks fans are loving it, including myself. So, to recap, Atlanta traded back from 13 to 23 and picked up a potential gem in Asa Newell, all while grabbing a potentially top-tier first-round pick for the loaded draft class of 2026. The front court is deeper and the future is brighter, and the team finally feels like it's building towards something super meaningful as Trae Young enters its prime. So Anzi Saleh has earned the early trust of the fan base, including myself, and the buzz around the Hawks is super real. Thank you guys for watching today's latest edition of Hawks Latest. If you enjoyed the breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update. Obviously, this past month or so, we've been really covering the draft on pretty much every episode. They're going to look a little bit different now, but I thank you guys for sticking with me. The growth on this channel has been awesome, and I can't wait to continue to grow it more. So once again, I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.